Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your series at St. Joan of Arc Church. I wish I could come up. I'd love to meet all of you and I'd love to be looking at you face to face. This seems very strange, standing in my study in Austin, Minnesota, speaking to a video camera and talking to all of you. But I'm so pleased to be able to talk to you about the work that we've done in Austin, Minnesota, and thank you very much for being interested in it. Well, let's see. If all of you got in your cars and drove about an hour and 20 minutes south, you would be in Austin. We're very close to the Iowa border. And interestingly enough, I grew up in the northern part of North Dakota. I come from Starkweather, North Dakota, so that's like very close to the Canadian border, and we moved all the way down here to the southern part of Minnesota. In the process of doing that, Tim and I spent 4 years in Madagascar. We worked there through the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Tim was a medical missionary and a doctor, and I taught English in the French school and then French in the American school. And that was quite an experience. And one of the things that we learned there was how wonderful it is to have welcoming people. The people there welcomed us and we felt very much a part of their life, so that when we came back and moved to Austin in 1979, that was one of our goals, was to make sure that when people came to Austin, they would be welcomed. So while teaching French at the Riverland Community College, I decided to run for the city council. I was elected and served 8 years on the city council and then 10 years as mayor. I enjoyed that job very, very much. Well, the history of our wonderful new immigrants and refugees started in the 80s. Tim and I got here in 1979, and right away we started having people from Southeast Asia. The mainly Vietnamese were moving into the community, and we had groups that welcomed them, helped them with clothing, helped them with education. And there weren't a lot of people, and they assimilated very well. Then we moved into the 80s and the 90s with Latinos coming in, many coming from Mexico, but also several of the Central American countries. Then around the year 2000, we started having people from South Sudan. Then we had people from Burma and West Africa. And the latest group to come to Austin are people from Micronesia. It's interesting because when we arrived in '79 and there was very little ethnic diversity, now over 50% of our schools are ethnic minority groups, and we have, I have to look at the number, I called and asked what's the number today. We have over 45 languages spoken in homes. Isn't that amazing? Austin, Minnesota, a town of 25,000, southeastern Minnesota, and we have over 45 languages spoken in our homes. The world truly has come to our doorstep. It was about the year 1999 that we started noticing that we needed to do something. We had great needs in the community, the ethnic diversity, and we wanted to do something. We wanted to be welcoming. We wanted people to feel a part of our community. So in 1999, we started a group called Apex, and it was members of the community. It was about 30 of us who met, talked about the needs, divided into different committees, and started to work. One of the big helps was that the Hormel Foundation gave up to $5 million to us for our projects to help Austin to be a more welcoming community. We did many, many things throughout the years. The very first project was a child care facility. Then one of the major things that has made such a difference in our community, we started a welcome center. And that welcome center, 20 years later, is still going. We did housing projects, language classes, leadership classes. The Blandin Foundation has community leadership programs, and we use those. Many, many projects. And when we originally started, I thought, this will sunset. You know, Apex will go off into the sunset and the projects that we're doing will continue. And it's interesting because 2020, 20 years after we started, Apex is still going. We meet monthly. We have projects that we're working on in the community to continue to be inclusive and welcoming. And I thought it was interesting. The last meeting, which we now have as a Zoom meeting, our guest was the director of theater at Riverland Community College. And she wanted to make sure that the plays, that her board of directors, that the work at the college with the theater is more inclusive. So she met with Apex and got lots of ideas and lots of help on that project. Something that has affected all of us recently is the COVID-19 and the worldwide pandemic. And of course, it's affected us here in Austin, and we've been very concerned about our immigrants and refugees. We want to make sure that they're being taken care of. The Hormel Foundation actually set up a fund where people could apply for help during this time. And so we have helped with food. We were concerned about rent for the undocumented, and we went to Clues, the agency Clues, which actually comes from the cities, but they also work in Austin. They're helping us. Computers is a big thing because we have homes where there's only perhaps one computer and several kids needing to use it for their classes. So we're getting more computers into homes. The connections, we're getting in hotspots so that people can be connected. And then some of the wonderful stories are the owner of a Mexican restaurant here saw that there was a need, and on 2 Thursdays set up a food line where he gave food to over 200 families in need. And then some of our Vietnamese manicurists who weren't able to work for a while they were down, they were making face masks. So it's definitely affected our community, and we're working to do what we can. Another thing that really affected us, as it certainly did you in the cities, was the death of George Floyd. It was very hard on people, and we felt so badly, and we still do, for his family and friends. And the weekend after, we had a peaceful gathering here in Austin, and it was very moving. We had 2 of the police officers who were helping with the walk, got down on their knees and just showed their support. It was very moving. I have a good friend who runs a Burmese store here. She was so concerned for safety, and so I called the chief of police and we talked. And luckily, he's a very open guy. He goes to the different groups of people, different ethnic groups that we have, and speaks about public safety. And he talked to her about the things that they could do and how Austin is really, we're very blessed to be a safe community. Because of his death, we actually, for our Hormel Foundation, we decided to have 2 listening sessions. The chair and myself as co-chair on Zoom, 2 different sessions, 15 people each. So we listened to 13 very diverse, ethnically, age-wise, in our community, and asked them 2 questions. Do they feel safe? Is there anything that they feel we can be doing with public safety? And then also, do they feel Austin is a welcoming community? And what more can we do? So because of his death, we too are trying to improve and trying to live a good life, a welcoming life. I have all these things prepared, but I see now that that's about 10 minutes. And so what I want to ask you is, please come back, and on the 20th at 10 o'clock, we'll continue the conversation. And I'd like to hear from all of you. I'll continue on that Sunday. I'm going to talk about some individual stories. I have pictures and stories of the wonderful people we have here in Austin. We'll talk about what we can do in the cities, in greater Minnesota. What can we do together? What can we do in our communities? What can we do as individuals to make sure that everyone is safe and feeling welcomed? Be sure to mark your calendars also. Chip Scogans is a part of this series on October 20th, and he actually came to Austin and interviewed us and talked about our basketball team, which That's quite a story. And he has a wonderful story to tell about our community. And then don't forget also Father Callahan on November 15th. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again on September 20th.